and welcome to GooseDrunks. Ooh. Today we're going to be finishing the book we started just yesterday, Say Cheese and Die, starring Ryan Gosling. Sorry for the brief unintentional hiatus, and the fact that this is not my new set. As you can see, moving is difficult, and I still have a lot of boxes everywhere, and I'm very lazy and bad at unpacking. So it's just going to be this until my actual set is where I want it to be, if that makes sense. In the meantime, I hope you guys don't mind this temporary set. I think it works for its intended purpose. One can only hope. I'm Bailey. There are 2 rules. Drink if it's stupid, drink if it's spooky. That's it. That's the whole thing. Since I typically want to try doing like 1 book per video, but this time we had to break it up out of necessity, I didn't come up with a brand new cocktail for this one. Instead, I came up with a fancy new cocktail called a bottle of champagne. By which I mean a bottle of sparkling wine. Let's be real. Oh, I got it. So, Bird grabs a snapshot of Sheree's hand and is like, hey, what's with this stupid camera? And then his coach calls him away to play the, baseball game. So he runs off and doesn't concern himself with it further, which is not what I would do. It really looks like Bird is lying on the ground, knocked out or something. And Greg's like, I don't know. The camera keeps doing that. I don't know what to tell you. It's confusing to me as well. And so they wander over to a shady spot beside the bleachers, and they're still looking at this terrible photo, and Sheree's like, oh, look how his neck is bent. It's so awful. Oh. He's like, yeah, there's definitely something wrong with the camera. He starts to tell her about the photos he took before, but she interrupts him. You know how women are. And that picture of Michael. Michael is the one who's Southern. Bird's Scottish. All right, I'll get it in post. And Sheree, pulls the camera away from him and is like, is there any film left? He's like, I can't tell. I can't find a film counter or anything. How about look in the camera, sir? Sheree's like, well, how can you even tell if it's loaded or not? And Greg, who is a camera enthusiast, shrugs. The baseball game gets underway, and if you think baseball is exciting when you're watching it, wait until you hear about reading it in a children's book. Oh, a kid in the bleachers dropped his soda can. That's exciting. So they're trying to open up the camera to figure out if there's any film left, and it won't open at all. And so Sheree's just like, what a stupid camera, and she's right. And then Greg's like, hold on, it's not the camera's fault. Yes, it is. So they're trying to open it. Sheree's like pulling it with her fingernails. Greg's like, you're gonna wreck it.
I'm gonna wreck it!
She's like, how could I wreck it? It has no moving parts. And then she's like, I give up. Check it out yourself, Greg. He took the camera, started to raise it to his face, and stopped. Uttering a low cry of surprise, his mouth dropped open and his eyes gaped straight ahead. Startled, Sheree turned to follow his shocked gaze. Oh no! There on the ground, a few yards outside the first baseline, lay Bird. He was sprawled on his back, his neck bent in an odd and unnatural angle. His eyes shut tight. Dun dun dun! Okay, we're drinking for that. I think they killed Bird. Bird! Sheree cried. Bird didn't move. Sheree and Greg, running side by side at full speed, reached him together. Bird opened one eye. Gotcha, he said quietly. Oh my god, that's so dumb. How could his neck be bent at an unnatural angle if he was kidding? Is his neck double jointed? And eventually they're just debating who's gonna hit him first, which is absolutely valid. Super get that. Also, isn't he in the middle of a baseball game? Has no one noticed these 2 strange children running onto the field? Bird tried unsuccessfully to wrestle free. I just wanted to show you how bogus it is to get all worked up about that dumb camera. You think because it showed Michael falling down the stairs, there's something strange with it. But that's dumb. Real dumb. Is it? I feel like there's a dumb thing happening here, and it's not them being freaked out because the camera predicted the future. Bird just says that same thing that doesn't make sense, which is that it's broken. It's not broken. It's visibly not broken. Just because it's doing something scary doesn't mean it's broken. I think it's operating exactly the way it's supposed to. And then finally, the coach notices Bird's not actually playing the game, and his 2 friends are on the field, and he yells for Bird to come over. And so Greg and Sheree trudge back over to the bleachers. Even RL's like, the game was so boring some of the spectators left, and I really appreciate that, because it's not often at a kid's game the parents are like, this sucks, and bail. And so they're just sitting and quietly heckling their friend, which is valid at this point, because they're really angry at him, and Greg's like, what a clown, which is a very G-rated insult, but I think you can feel that R-rated sting. They both watched Bird's long legs storking after the ball. That's not a verb, RL. Has RL ever been to a baseball game? Like, I haven't, but I'm pretty sure he hasn't either. And then Sherry's like, it's so hot here in the sun. Do you want to leave? And then Greg's like, I just want to see the next inning because Bird's coming up and I want to stay and boo him. I respect both of them at this point. Both of them have instincts that I can appreciate and empathize with. It took a long while for the Dolphins to get the third out. The Cardinals batted around their entire order. Gibberish. Greg's t-shirt was drenched with sweat by the time Bird came up to the plate in the top of the fourth. Despite the loud booing from Sheree and Greg, Bird managed to punch the ball past the shortstop for a single. I don't think you're supposed to punch it, my dude. I think that's what the bat's for. Let's go, Sheree urged, pulling Greg's arm. It's so hot, I'm dying of thirst. Let's just see if Bird... Greg didn't finish his sentence. Uh-oh. The batter hit the next ball hard and made a loud thunk as it left the bat. A dozen people, players and spectators, cried out as the ball flew across the diamond, a sharp line drive, and slammed into the side of Bird's head with another thunk. Bird's eyes went wide with disbelief, confusion. He stood frozen in place on the base path for a long moment. Then both of his hands shot up above his head, and he uttered a shrill cry, long and loud, like the high-pitched whinny of a horse. This visual is very funny. Then he collapsed, sprawling onto his back, his neck at an unnatural angle, his eyes closed. He didn't move. This is the third chapter in a row that has ended with Bird's neck at an unnatural angle, and I'm hoping this time it sticks. Anyway, that's the end of the chapter, so I'm gonna drink because it's stupid. And Greg started to run over there, and then he saw his brother show up, and he's like, why is Terry here? Terry, what's happening? Greg cried. As Terry approached, his face held the same frightened expression as in the photograph Greg had snapped of him. Oh no. Terry, what is it? He managed to cry. It's Dad, Terry said, putting a heavy hand on Greg's shoulder. Did RL kill the dad? He's been in a bad accident. The new car's totaled. Oh no. So they go running together. Reaching the street, he turned back to the playground to see what was happening with Bird. A large crowd was still huddled around Bird, blocking him from sight. But what was that dark shadow behind the bleachers, Greg wondered. Someone all in black, was hiding back there. Watching Greg? Greg stared hard at the bleachers. The dark figure pulled back out of sight. Come on, Greg. I'm coming, Greg shouted and followed his brother toward home. Dun, dun, dun. That is spooky. As they're running into the hospital to get to Dad's room, Greg is reconciling with the fact that the car has been totaled, the photo, and it's probably his fault. Their mom is in the room and has been crying. This is very serious. This is probably the most serious a Goosebumps book has ever been, and I'm including that time they just thoughtlessly murdered the dog. Mr. Banks had a mummy-like bandage covering his hair. One arm was in a cast, the other lay at his side and had a tube attached just above the wrist, dripping a dark liquid into his arm. The bedsheet was pulled up to his chest. I hope the hospital does a good job saving Mr. Banks. Hey, how's it going, guys? Their father asked. That's what he always sounded like. He's going to be okay, Mrs. Banks interrupted, seeing the frightened look on her son's faces. I feel great, Mr. Banks said groggily. A few broken bones, that's it. Guess I'm lucky. Greg's debating telling them about the haunted camera, that'll do anything other than make them think their son is crazy. That conclusion doesn't really occur to Greg, because then he's like, Dad, I have to tell you about this photo I took. I took a picture of the new car, and Mrs. Banks is like, the car's completely wrecked. I'm interrupting you, and it's for your own good. She didn't say that part, but, Greg, not now. Which is fair, and Greg is being an idiot, so we're gonna drink. Hey, Mr. Banks nods off because he's on a lot of painkillers, and that makes sense. So as they're leaving, Greg's just contemplating the camera. What's the truth about the camera, he wondered. Does the camera show the future? Or does it cause bad things to happen? Dun dun dun, great question, Greg. And so it cuts to the next day, and Greg's on the phone yeah, I know Bird's okay. Oh, good, I'm glad we resolved that one in a satisfying way. And then Sheree's it's my birthday, bring the demon camera. And Greg's I don't want to do that. And she's it's my birthday, bring the demon camera. It was the next weekend, Saturday afternoon. Greg had been nearly out the door on his way to Sheree's birthday party when the phone rang. Don't you understand, Sheree? I don't want anyone else to get hurt. Oh, Greg, she said. You don't really believe that, do you? You don't really believe that camera can hurt people. Sheree, I don't know. It's happened 4 times now. At this point, shouldn't you kind of believe that? I had a dream, Sheree, last night. It was about the camera. I was taking everyone's picture. My whole family, Mom, Dad, and Terry. They were barbecuing. In the backyard, I held up the camera. I kept saying, say cheese, over and over. And when I looked through the viewfinder, they were smiling back at me, but they were skeletons. So anyway, Greg tells this really long story about this really awful, traumatizing dream he has, and it goes on for a really long time. And then his voice trails off and Sheree goes, What a dumb dream. It's her birthday, so we'll give this to her. Also, it is a dumb dream. Also, it's just rude to tell people about your dreams, frankly. Unless they are in them, do not tell them about it. And even then, think very carefully before you do. And that's, if you take anything away from this today, I hope it's that. Bring it, Greg. It's not your camera, you know. All 4 of us were in the Kaufman house. It belongs to all 4 of us. Bring it. But why, Sheree? Greg demanded. It'll be a goof, that's all. Oh, then Sheree says something that's actually genuinely very, very, very sad. We don't have anything else to do for my party. I wanted to rent a video, but my mom said we have to go outdoors. She doesn't want her precious house messed up. So I thought we could take everyone's picture with the weird camera. You know, see what strange things come out. Okay, I was with her and then I lost her at the end there. Like, I get the wanting to have something fun happen at your birthday party, but I think taking demon photos of all your friends is maybe not the fun activity you're hoping it will be. And then finally, Greg's like, well, it's Sheree's birthday after all, and takes the camera to her birthday. Dun dun dun. That's stupid. How's it going, Bird? Greg called, making his way across the flagstone patio to Sheree's backyard. I'm feeling okay, Bird said, slapping his friend a high five. Then Michael shows up, and his red hair is unbrushed as usual, and he's wearing faded jeans and a flowered Hawaiian sports shirt about 3 sizes too big for him. And Greg's like, where'd you get that shirt? But I think you know what the answer is. Oh, no, it's just that his grandma gave it to him. I thought it would be from the house. Why is there a big deal being made of it? RL, stop wasting my time. That's dumb, I'm gonna drink. And then Sheree shows up and is like, but did you bring the camera? Greg's like, yeah. And she's like, excellent. You can take my picture first since it's my birthday. She's very brave, I'll give her that. Or dumb, but Greg's like, are you sure you want to do this? She's like, yes, I want to take everyone's picture. I told you this over the phone. It took an entire chapter. Greg's like, it'll come out weird. And Sheree's like, yeah, I know. That's the point. Will you please take the picture? Sheree cried, holding on to the slender trunk of the tree. What tree? A tree. I don't know. Greg pointed the lens at her and pressed the button. The camera whirred and the undeveloped white square rolled out. Take Michael's picture next, Sheree told Greg. No way, Michael replied quickly, raising his hands as if to shield himself and backing away. The last time you took my picture with that thing, I fell down the stairs. Trying to get away, Michael backed right into Nina Blake, one of Sheree's friends. Michael, come on, it's my party, Sheree called. What are we going to do? Is this it? Nina demanded from halfway across the yard. I thought we'd take everyone's picture and then play a game or something, Sheree told her. A game? Bird chimed in. You mean like spin the bottle? A few kids laughed. Truth or dare? Nina suggested. And then all the girls agree with Nina because they're all 12 and they don't want to make out with Bird either. Oh no, Greg groaned quietly to himself. Truth or dare meant a lot of kissing. I'm not going to be like, in what universe does truth or dare mean a lot of kissing? Because I live in this universe as well and I too have played truth or dare. However, I will say Greg did not have that reaction to when Bird suggested spin the bottle. RL's the one who said kissing. I'm just gonna throw that one out there. He said kissing. 9 girls and only 3 boys. It was gonna be really embarrassing. Yeah, this is a very heteronormative party. Anyway, while everyone's debating whether or not they should make out with all the other 12-year-olds at the party, Sheree's like, I want to see the photo. Did it come out? He held out the photo and they both examined it. Where am I? Sheree asked in surprise. What were you aiming at? You missed me. Greg stared at the snapshot. There was the tree, but no Sheree. Weird, I pointed it right at you. I lined it up carefully, he protested. Well, you missed me. I'm not in the shot. Sheree's like, I'm not in it. You have to take another one. That's the whole point of this. I want to be in a photo. I guess it is very novel when you're a child and you don't have like smartphones and whatever to get your picture taken, even if it is from a demon camera. Stand closer this time. Greg moved a few steps closer, carefully centered Sheree in the viewfinder and snapped the picture. A square of film zipped out the front. Sheree walked over and pulled the picture from the camera. This one better turn out, she said, staring hard at it as the colors began to darken and take form. Hey, I don't believe it! Again, she was invisible. Uh-oh, girl. The tree photographed clearly, perfectly in focus. I'm glad the tree comes out of this okay. But Sheree was nowhere to be seen. Forget it. Hey guys, truth or dare? Sheree headed them back to the woods behind her backyard to play. More privacy, she explained. They are 12, RL. This is gross. It is not gross for a child to have budding sexuality. It is gross for an adult to write about it in detail in a children's book that isn't specifically about that. It's not a coming-of-age novel. It's a horror novel. for children's. The game is just as embarrassing as Greg had imagined. Among the boys, only Bird seemed to be enjoying it. Luckily, after little more than half an hour, yikes, he heard Mrs. Walker, Sheree's mom, calling from the house, summoning them back to cut the birthday cake. So the kids all make their way back to the patio where there's a pink and white birthday cake with candles all lit, waiting for them on a round umbrella table. Mrs. Walker's like, I must be a pretty bad mom, allowing you all to go off into the woods by yourselves. Ha! Yeah, you are. Cake knife in her hand, Mrs. Walker looked around. Where's Sheree? Everyone turned their eyes to search the backyard. She was with us in the woods, Nina told Mrs. Walker. Just a minute ago. So everyone's calling for her. Bird's calling for her in his dumb accent. Everyone's calling for her, but no sign of her anywhere. They searched the house, the front yard, the woods again, but Sheree had vanished. Dun dun dun! Hi. So Greg is sitting at Sheree's house watching the policeman search for her. Tammy's also worried. Sheree has been missing for hours. And the policemen are like, there's no sign of her, ma'am. I'm gonna drink. It's terrifying, the prospect of a 12-year-old girl getting kidnapped in the woods. This happens in real life. But the policeman's like, there's no sign of a struggle, but that could mean anything, dude. And they just do what they can, which is they tell the walkers that they're gonna keep looking. And then grimly says, I'm sure we'll find something. Dude, it's been an hour. Maybe don't jump to the we'll probably find her body in the woods conclusion, because yikes. So the policeman starts walking away, and then he sees Greg, and he's like, everyone's gone home, you should go home. And Greg's like, yeah. And then the officer introduces himself. He's Officer Riddick. He's like, how come you didn't go home after we talked with you, like all the others did? And Greg's like, I'm just upset, I guess. Plus, Greg's just one of those people who can't read a room well enough to know when a party's over. And then he's like, besides, I live, like, next door, so where am I gonna go? Next door? Poor Sheree. She got her one birthday wish, to have her photo taken with a demon camera. Then the policeman's like, 1 minute she's here, next minute she's gone. But he's got his eyes on Greg's face, like he's like, you did it. Like, but Greg's not picking up on those vibes like I am. He's just like, I'm confused too, my friend. Like, Gregory, no, never trust the police. Oh my god, wait. Do you have something more to tell me? Officer Riddick asked, hands resting on his hips, his right hand just above the worn brown holster that carried his pistol. He's threatening this 12-year-old boy with a gun. Bro, what do you think happened? So Greg's going through like the mental gymnastics of debating whether or not to tell the officer about the demon camera. It goes for like an entire page, just internal debate. And the officer's just like, you look troubled. Why don't you tell me what's bothering you? Why don't you tell me what's on your mind? I think it'll make you feel a lot better. Greg, call a lawyer. It's this camera, Greg blurted out. You see, this camera's weird. I took Sheree's picture before. When I first arrived, I took 2 pictures, and she was invisible in both of them. See? And the officer, being an adult, is like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Greg raised the camera, attempting to hand it to the policeman. Officer Riddick made no attempt to take it. He just stared hard at Greg, his eyes narrowing, his expression hardening. Greg felt a sudden stab of fear. Oh no, he thought. Why is he looking at me like that? What's he going to do? Dun dun dun. I hope this book ends with, like, Greg being falsely arrested for Sheree's murder, and it's like a court proceeding, Law and Order style. And it ends with executive producer Dick Wolf. Eventually the officer's like, that's enough. I think you're very upset, and I don't blame you. This is very upsetting for everyone. I'm going to ask that policeman over there to take you home now. And I'm going to have him tell your parents that you've been through a very frightening experience. Greg, this was a small mercy. You stupid dum-dum. I'm going to drink because of Greg being a stupid dum-dum. Even Greg's like, how could I have been so stupid? I don't know, Greg. You've been pretty smart until this point. He goes into his kitchen. He's like, anybody home? But there's no reply because his dad's in the hospital. Terry's at work. His mom's probably at the hospital too. Still cradling the camera, he climbed the stairs to his room. He stopped in the doorway, blinked twice, then uttered a cry of horror. His books were scattered all over the floor. The covers had been pulled off of his bed. His desk drawers were all open, their contents strewn around the room. Someone had been in Greg's room and had turned it upside down. Dun dun dun! Thank you, baby. That was very good dramatic timing. One entire page is spent for chapter 20, which Greg wonders who would have ransacked his room. And the thing about Greg is he's actually pretty smart as far as protagonists go. So he's immediately like, what do I have that someone could be looking for? And then he's like, the camera. And who would be looking for that camera? And he's like, Spidey, the guy I stole it from. So he immediately knows Spidey was in his room. And he knows what he has to do. Dun, dun, dun. Hi, baby. So Greg calls Bird, and he's like, you need to call Michael, and you all need to meet me at the playground by the baseball diamond. Bird's like, it's almost dinner time. I don't know if my parents... Greg's like, it's important, so... I've got to see you guys, so be there if you're my friend. Greg's like, I know what I have to do. I have to return this thing to Spidey's. It's the only way to stop this. And Bird's like, no, not gonna do it. And Michael's also like, no, I'm really not gonna do that. And Greg's like, are you chicken? And Bird's like, yes. And Bird's like, just give it to me. I'll hide it under the bleachers. Or however Scottish people sound. It's not like that, I'll tell you that much. You don't understand, Greg cried. He knows where I live. He was in my house. He was in my room. He wants the camera back and... Here, give it to me, Bird said. We don't have to go back to that house. He can find it right here. He grabbed again for the camera. Greg held tightly to the strap and tried to tuck it away. Bird grabbed the side of the camera. Greg cried out as it flashed, and word. A square of film slid out. No! Greg cried to Bird, horrified. You took my picture! His hand trembling, he pulled the snapshot from the camera. What would it show? Dun dun dun! I know that's a cliffhanger, but I think it would be really funny if it just came out and Greg was like, I look amazing. Thank you so much. I will cherish this forever. Executive producer Dick Wolf. Before Bird can finish apologizing, a couple of classic Goosebumps bullies come out of where they were hiding, I guess, by the bleachers. Their names are Joey Ferris and Mickey Ward. They are two 9th graders who are always swaggering around, acting tough, picking on kids younger than them. You know, cartoon bullies. And so both Bird and Michael are like, we gotta go home, bye! Hey, you found my camera, Joey said, grabbing it out of Greg's hand. Thanks, man. Don't take that camera, Mickey told his friend, a smile spreading over his round face. It's my camera. He wrestled the camera away from Joey. And Greg's like, come on, you could... Not now. I haven't even met you guys before this page, and now you're just very specifically getting in my way. Greg's like, I have to give that back to its owner, and Mickey's like, no, you don't. I'm the owner now. Him and Joey have the same voice, but that's because I don't give a shit about them and they're not real characters. If they were real bullies to worry about, we would have met them earlier, like in other RL Stine books, when the bullies show up and kind of get in the way in the final battle. They have always, shown up first. These guys are being introduced on page 99. This whole thing is dumb. I don't need a mini boss. The camera is no good to you anyway. It's broken and it doesn't belong to me. So it's 2 reasons you don't need this one. Mickey's like, yeah, right. Let's just say cheese, Mickey instructed Joey. Just snap the stupid thing, Joey replied impatiently. Impulsively, Greg leapt forward. With a cry, he snatched the camera away from Mickey's face. Hey, Mickey reacted in surprise. Let's go, Greg shouted to Bird and Michael. Without another word, the 3 friends turned and began running across the deserted playground toward their homes. They didn't turn around until they were across the street. Well, they did not get far, huh? Breathing noisily, they looked back and cried out in relieved surprise. Joey and Mickey hadn't budged from beside the bleachers. They hadn't chased after them. They were leaning against the bleachers laughing. Catch you later, guys, Joey called after them. And so Bird and Michael are all like, we're gonna go back home now. We'll deal with this later. And they say goodbye to Greg. And so Greg goes back to his house, and then he remembers that the snapshot he had shoved into his pocket was still there. And then he pulls it out of his pocket and held the snapshot up close to his face. And he's like, oh no, I don't believe it. Dun dun dun. Classic Goosebumps cliffhanger. Oh, I need to refill. Thank you. Yep, you got me right in the eye. Yep. Chapter 24. This is impossible, Greg cried aloud, gaping at the snapshot in his trembling hand. How had Sheree gotten into the photo? I'm gonna drink. That was genuinely startling. Drink. Hell yeah. Sheree's in the photo, and that's Sheree exciting. There they were on the playground. He could see the baseball diamond in the background. Sheree sitting so clear, so sharp, right next to him. They were both staring straight ahead, their eyes wide, their mouths open, their expressions frozen in horror as a large shadow covered them both. Sheree? Greg called out, his eyes darting over the front yard. Are you here? Can you hear me? Greg, a voice called. It took him a while to realize that it was his mother. I skipped a little bit. There's a lot of calling back and forth of Greg and Sheree before he realizes it's his mother. Pacing? What pacing? Pacing schmacing. Word count. Where have you been? I heard about Sheree. I've been so upset. I didn't know where you were. That's valid, actually. Shit. They don't have cell phones back then. It's the 90s. 2 days later? What? This is not moving at the pace I would think it would. Sheree's been missing for multiple days. She's most likely dead. I know crime stats. Never go to a second location, Sheree, even if the demon camera whisks you there. So, alright, house is empty except for Greg. Terry had gone off a few hours before to his after-school job at the Dairy Freeze. Mrs. Banks had driven to the hospital to pick up Greg's dad, who was finally coming home multiple days in the hospital. Not great. There were so many things troubling Greg, he couldn't even be happy about that. So Sheree still hadn't been found. The police's new theory is that she had been kidnapped, presumably not by demon spirits. He was sure Sheree hadn't been kidnapped. He knew that somehow the camera had made her disappear, but he couldn't tell anyone else what he believed, because no one would believe him. Anyone he tried to tell the story to would think he was crazy. Because cameras can't be evil. Yeah, they can, bitch. Look at any camera that's ever taken a candid photo of me. The camera was still hidden in the secret compartment in his headboard. Neither Bird nor Michael would agree to help Greg return it to the Kaufman house. With a sigh, he reached into the headboard and pulled out 2 of the snapshots he had hidden there along with the camera. Staring at the photos, Greg let out a cry of anguish. If only he had never gone into the Kaufman house. It's okay. They'll find her. Before he realized what he was doing, he was ripping the 2 snapshots into tiny pieces. Panting loudly, his chest heaving, he tore up the snapshots and let the pieces fall to the floor. Alright, so we're just repeating all the words now. RL Stine really is the Charles Dickens of the 21st century. He flung himself face down on his bed and closed his eyes, waiting for his heart to stop pounding, waiting for the heavy feeling of guilt and horror to lift. 2 hours later, so not super instantaneously, the phone by his bed rang. It was Sheree. Dun dun dun! I love that the demon spirits still made him wait 2 hours. Chapter 25. Home stretch. Is it? No, we still have like 30 pages left. I'm just kidding. Sheree, is it really you? Greg shouted into the phone. Yeah, it's me. She sounded as surprised as he did. So surprised that her accent just went completely out the window. How do British people sound? I've been home for 2 hours and Mom's still crying and carrying on. Stiff upper lip, mother. I can't believe it. Sheree, where were you? I don't know. 1 minute there I was at my birthday party. The next minute I was standing in front of my house. And it was 2 days later. But I don't remember being away or being anywhere else. I don't remember anything at all. You don't remember going away or coming back? Greg asked. Yeah, that's what she said. Greg, pay attention. The police are here. They want to question me. What am I going to tell them? I don't know, Greg said, completely bewildered. She called to her mother that she was coming. Bye, Greg. See you. And then she hung up. Greg replaced the receiver but sat on the edge of his bed staring at the phone for a long time. So here's my question. If ripping up the photos of Sheree being invisible made her be not invisible anymore, would ripping up the photo of Bird having his neck broken make him be such less of an asshole? Would it unfall Michael? I don't understand how the internal logic isn't consistent in this. I'm taking a drink. He met Sheree on the playground the next afternoon. 8 or 9 kids were engaged in a noisy brawl of a soccer game, running one way, then the other, across the outfield of the baseball diamond. You know, soccer. He showed her the snapshot, the one showing the 2 of them on the playground, staring in horror as a shadow crept over them. I want to take the camera back to the Kaufman house, Greg said. Sheree started to reply, but stopped. They both saw the dark shadow move. You think maybe if you have a photo of the 2 of you looking horrified on the baseball diamond, you would meet her literally anywhere except the baseball diamond? That's just a thinking I'm having. Then they saw the man dressed all in black, his spindly legs pumping hard as he came at them. Greg grabbed Sheree's hand, frozen in fear. He and Sheree gaped in terror as Spidey's slithering shadow crept over them. Dun dun dun. That's a cliffhanger. You know, there are 20 more pages, but there are 5 more chapters. I want you guys to know what the math is on these. So Spidey moves toward them and Greg grabs Sherry's hand and is like, run! But he didn't even have to say it. They were both running before he already said it, basically. Yeah. He's going to catch us, Greg cried. He's too fast. It's been established that neither of them play sports. They're literally the least capable 12-year-olds of getting away from this dude. When the car horn honked, Greg screamed. Greg turned to see a familiar young man inside a small hatchback. It was Jerry Norman, who lived across the street. Wow, thanks for introducing him now, RL. I guess you could call this a Jerry Ex Machina. Is this man chasing you? Jerry asked excitedly. Without waiting for an answer, he backed his car towards Spidey. I'm calling the cops, mister. Literally, how hard is it to just introduce him, like, briefly at the beginning? He waved at Jerry Norman, his neighbor from across the street, and went inside. And then he can come back later, and you're like, oh yeah, Jerry, from the beginning. Instead, we're getting his first and last name now, and the fact that he lives across the street. It ruins the pacing. Basically, when someone does this, it just makes me think that this is the first draft of their book. It just smacks of laziness. Spidey didn't reply. Instead, he turned and darted across the street. I'm warning you, Jerry called after him, but Spidey had disappeared behind a tall hedge. And then Jerry drives away, presumably never to be seen again. That was close, Sheree said. Why was Spidey chasing us? He thought I had the camera. He wants it back, Greg told her. Meet me tomorrow, okay? In front of the Kaufman house. Help me put it back? Okay, Sheree said. Dun dun dun. So they're walking toward the Kaufman house the next day. Thunder rumbled in the distance, a low roar. It's ominous. I'm gonna drink because I want to. Please ignore my cat giving himself a bath behind me. I know it's indecent, but what am I gonna do? Tell him to stop? No way. So they stop at the living room window and peer inside. It's really dark in there, and Sheree's like, I can't see anything because it's very dark. And Greg's like, well, let's just go to the basement, because that's where Spidey hangs out. Hangs out is a really nice way to say squats, but alright, Greg. Squinting through the dust-covered window panes, they could see the makeshift plywood table, the wardrobe against the wall, its doors still open, the colorful old clothing spilling out, the empty frozen food boxes scattered on the floor. I don't know if the frozen food boxes are meant to be like, it's sad, or like they're cheap, or and he can't have home-cooked meals, or whatever, but logistically, RL, how is he eating frozen food? Does he have a microwave? Sammy, this is just indecent. RL's just saying frozen food because he thinks that that's just inherently sad. But you know, there's a lot of other inherently sad foods out there. Lunchables. Here's something interesting that I'm just gonna yell out for a minute. Are you sure? Sheree stammered. She wanted to be brave, but the thought that she had disappeared for 2 days completely vanished, most likely because of the camera. That frightening thought lingered in her mind. She wished this were over, all over. This entire book has been written from a third-person limited perspective. In that, it is told in the third person, but focuses exclusively on the events from Greg's perspective, from Greg's point of view. We hear Greg's thoughts, we hear no one else's thoughts. 20 pages from the end, RL is like, screw that, we're going third-person omniscient, baby. We're getting thoughts from everybody. It's jarring. It's just sloppy writing. Anyway, they push open the front door and they listen, and they both jump at the sound of a loud sudden crash directly behind them. Dun dun dun. Anyway, chapter 28. Couldn't we just leave the camera up here and run? Sheree asked, more of a plea than a question. No, I want to put it back, Greg insisted. Why? Spidey lives here. He will see the camera. Leave it somewhere obvious and get the hell out of there. Like, why do you have to put it back where you got it from beyond poeticism? Greg's like, if he doesn't find it, he'll come back to my house. Then leave it somewhere obvious in the place where you know he squats. He squats in the whole house. Just leave it somewhere obvious. Why is this? Ugh. This is just an invented problem, and I don't like it. It's dumb, and I'm drinking. Greg takes her over to where the, secret door is. He cranks the vise. The door to the secret shelf opens. It still works. Hooray. Why wouldn't it? He shoved the camera onto the shelf, tucking the carrying strap under it. Then he pushed the door closed. We're out of here. They were halfway up the stairs. Greg, one step behind Sheree, went above them. Spidey stepped silently into view on the landing, blocking their escape. Dun, dun, dun. You'd think this would be over by now, but I know. Let's finish this bitch. So they both freak out and fall backwards. Spidey just takes a step toward them, and then he descended another step. Greg and Sheree backed down to the basement floor further. We returned the camera. Can we go now, please? Let me see, Spidey said. His voice was younger than his face. Well, I don't know what his face looks like, so... Come! Ushering them back across the cluttered floor to the work table, he wrapped his large, spidery hands over the vise. The door opened. He pulled out the camera and held it close to his face to examine it. You shouldn't have taken it. Can we go now? Greg asked. It's not an ordinary camera, Spidey said. Yeah, no shit, man. We know. The pictures it took, Spidey's eyes grew wide, his expression angry. You took pictures with it? Of course it's a camera. What do you think they did with it? Ate it? Just a few, Greg said, wishing he had kept his mouth shut. They didn't come out, really. You know about the camera, then? Spidey said, moving quickly to the center of the floor. It's broken or something, Greg said uncertainly, shoving his hands into his jean pockets. It's not broken. It's evil. Sit. Sheree and Greg exchanged glances, then reluctantly they sat down on the edge of the board. The camera's evil. I should know. I helped create it. Twist. This exchange is very dumb. I don't like when demon cameras come from somewhere. I like when they're just if they're not summoned in a devil ritual, then I don't want to hear that they invented a demon camera. Oh, he's a scientist. Or he was a scientist. Hold on. I'm a scientist. Or should I say, I was a scientist. My name is Dr. Fritz Fredericks. My lab partner invented this camera. It was his pride and joy. More than that, it would have made him a fortune. How? Would have, I say. He paused, a thoughtful expression sinking over his face. What happened to him? Did he die? Sheree asked, still fiddling with a strand of hair. No, I stole it from him. I stole the plans and the camera. I was evil. I was young and greedy, and I wasn't above stealing to make my fortune. How'd that work out for you, bud? When I stole the camera, it caught my partner by surprise. Unfortunately, from then on, all of the surprises were mine. My partner, you see, was much more evil than I was. Really, because you stole his shit. Okay, so apparently, I'm just going to summarize this because I can't do the old voice any longer. It will hurt me eventually. I'm not going to develop nodes for the sake of this book, you know? Anyway, he dabbled in the dark arts. Actually, he didn't dabble. He was quite the master of it all. He put a curse on the camera. If he couldn't profit from it, he wanted to make sure that I never would either. Well, this is a problematic paragraph that I'm just going to read verbatim. Do you know about how some primitive peoples fear the camera? They fear the camera because they believe that if it takes their picture, it will steal their soul. Well, this camera really does steal souls. You know, primitive people. Who could that be, I wonder? So apparently people close to Spidey have died because of this camera. It's the camera's fault and blah, 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 because it's evil. And so he vowed to keep the camera a secret, to keep it away from people so it cannot do its evil. He lost his job, his family, everything because of it. But I'm determined to keep the camera where it can do no harm. Greg quickly climbed to his feet and motioned for Sheree to do the same. Well, I guess it's good we returned it, he said hesitantly. Sorry we caused so much trouble. Yes, we're very sorry. Guess it's back in the right hands, Sheree repeated. Goodbye, Greg said. It's getting so late. No, Dr. Fredericks shouted, startling them both. He moved quickly to block the way. I'm afraid you can't go. You know too much. Dun, dun, dun. I can never let you leave, Dr. Fredericks said, his face flickering in the blue glow of a lightning flash. But we won't tell anyone, Greg said, really. Besides, Sheree said, even if we did tell anyone, who would believe us? Enough talk, Dr. Fredericks snapped. It won't do you any good. I've worked too long and too hard to keep the camera a secret. I wonder what Deus Ex Machina will save them here. And then Dr. Fredericks moved forward with surprising speed. Holding the camera in one hand, he grabbed Greg's shoulder with the other. No, Greg screamed, let's go. Let go. No, Greg screamed, let go. Oh my god. An omniscient narrator is the Deus Ex Machina here. She suddenly realized that both of Dr. Frederick's hands were occupied. This may be my only chance, she thought. She took a deep breath and lunged forward. Dr. Frederick's eyes bulged, and he cried out in surprise as Sheree grabbed the camera with both hands and pulled it away from him. He made a frantic grab for the camera, and Greg burst free. Before the desperate man could take another step, Sheree raised the camera to her eye and pointed the lens at him. Please, no, don't push the button. Flash. The bright burst of light startled them all. Sheree grabbed the camera. Run, she screamed. End of chapter. Dun, dun, dun. I'm so angry. This could have been a very good book, but this one element is so sloppy and is now playing such a pivotal role in the story, in the narrative, that I'm genuinely furious. Anyway, it's the last chapter. We're so close to the end, my dudes. So Greg and Sheree run side by side, slipping over the food cartons, jumping over tin cans and empty bottles. They could hear Dr. Frederick's anguished screams behind them. Did it take our picture or his? Sheree asked. I don't know, just hurry, Greg screamed. The stairs weren't that far away, but it seemed to take forever to reach them. Forever. So they finally reach the stairs. It takes a really long time, and then, to his shock, Greg turns around and discovers that Dr. Fredericks hadn't chased them after. We're doing great. What's going on? Sheree cried breathlessly. What's going on? Squinting back into the darkness, it took Greg a while to realize that the dark, rumpled form lying on the floor in front of the work table was Dr. Fredericks. Reluctantly, Greg started back toward Dr. Fredericks. Following close behind, Sheree uttered a low cry of horror when she clearly saw the fallen man's face. Eyes bulged out, the mouth open in a twisted O of terror. The face stared up at them, frozen, dead. What happened? Sheree finally managed to say. I think he died of fright. I only wanted to throw him off guard, Sheree cried. She's had a rough couple of days. The camera had claimed another victim. This time, forever. Unless you rip up the photo, I guess. I mean, it is spooky. I'm gonna take a drink, though. So Greg's like, well, I'm gonna put the camera back. So he does. And he's like, now we're gonna go home and call the police. So it's 2 days later, a cool, bright day with a gentle breeze. Sheree and Greg and Michael and Bird stopped at the curb, leaning on their bikes, stared up at the Kaufman house. And Bird's like, so you didn't tell the police about the camera? And Greg's like, They wouldn't believe it. What are you talking about? Besides, the camera should stay locked up forever. I hope no one ever finds out about it. Then you should have destroyed it. Why didn't you destroy it? That seems like the righter thing to do. More right thing to do. So Sheree explains the stupid bad fake story that they told the police that the police bought somehow. I'm not going to bother reiterating it here. Let's get out of here, Michael urged. He raised his sneakers to the pedals and started to roll away. This place really creeps me out. I don't know why. They turned the corner and were heading up the next block when two figures emerged from the back door of the Kaufman house. Joey Ferris and Mickey Ward, the cartoon bullies from earlier, stepped over the weed-choked lawn onto the driveway. Those jerks aren't too bright, Joey told his companion. They never even saw us the other day. Never saw us watching them through the basement window. Mickey laughed. They couldn't hide this camera from us. No way, man. He raised the camera and examined it. Take my picture, Mickey demanded. Come on, let's try it out. Joey raised the viewfinder to his eye. Say cheese. A click, a flash, a whirring sound. Joey pulled the snapshot from the camera. Both boys eagerly huddled around it, waiting to see what developed. End of book. I have a couple thoughts on that, but hold on. 1. How did they know how to get the camera? It was hidden in the, Vice thing, which was a secret thing that Greg had found accidentally before. So how did these two idiots find it? 2nd, they're such non-entities that they literally had to be completely reintroduced first and last name in the final thing. So if you know that that's going to be the pivotal way in which your camera is reintroduced to your spooky universe, RL, maybe make them a more integral part of the book. They're in the book for a total of 6 pages. It feels too inconsequential. It feels too inconsequential. Okay, anyway, that was Say Cheese and Die. I hope you guys liked it. I'm pretty drunk. I think my thoughts have been made very clear about this. I thought overall it was very good. The shift in narrative perspective at the end was jarring and bad. I have some housekeeping to do. First of all, I would love to say a very big thank you to to a few of my patrons, not just the ones who are scrolling by, but specifically Alexander Young, Trent Cunningham, Matthew McCoy, and Zeke Gonzalez. Bless all your hearts. You are doing the Lord's work. Thank you so much for your continued support. I don't deserve it. You guys are real nice. So, we're going to have the poll up to vote on which book you guys want within the next week. And, everyone's been picking real winners so far, so I'm going to keep going with this methodology until I guess people lose interest, and then I'll just be lonely in the corner picking the books myself and reading them to myself and my cat. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. You guys are my rock. Slapping you high fives all the way down, etc. Please stay spooky out there.